Last year when we did the first ever, it was just a startup day. When we did the first ever one, and we had so many great learnings, like don't leave a net alone to handle all the speakers. It's more than a one-person job. And we always.
But I did it.
The last session last year was dealing with failure. And I was a bit skeptical. But at the end, that was an outstanding session. I thought it was great. The only problem I had with it is, what a bummer of a way to end the day, right? I mean, holy cow, what a downer. What are we doing, ending with dealing with failure? So this year, I fought really hard to end with something different. Look, we have COVID all around us. And everyone's talking about dealing with COVID. I thought that we should really deal with what happens after COVID, right? I thought that was a super important topic to go forward with. And we had some commitments from some great speakers on this topic. More than once, we had some very impressive people who each and every one of them backed out or uncommitted. And I'm not going to call any of them out, although I'm really tempted to. So since it was my idea, basically about 40 hours ago, the topic got dumped back in my lap and said, congratulations, Pat, you're going to be the subject matter expert on entrepreneurship post-COVID. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm not an expert in this area. I don't have a degree in behavioral sciences. In fact, I don't even have a degree. I'm a 3-time dropout. But that aside, I do have some ideas. I have some thoughts. And I want to go through these, not that I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, but I want to inspire entrepreneurs here in the room to move forward and take care of this opportunity. More than once, I've heard Annette talk about how innovation comes from problem solving and change, right? I think that, Annette, you should have that painted on the wall in your office. Okay. And man, if we're not looking at problem solving and change right now, I don't know when we are. Okay. Just some things I've noted in the past few days about the impacts of COVID. And we're not really having a session on what those impacts are. We're going to talk about what happens next, but let's tee this up. I was on the phone with a data company recently that does restaurant data, and they were telling me that over 20% of the restaurant locations in the United States have closed, right? That means there's lots of retail space. We know retail has been hammered by the web, and now they've been hammered more by COVID. There's going to be restaurant space, there's retail space, office space. I gave up on my office. I got out of my lease. My office space is vacant. My employees are working at home, right? Everything's impacted. Just look at sports. Look at pro sports. Look at college sports. Look at even high school sports. My daughter's hockey season just got punted to January. My son's got a youth hockey game tonight at Mount St. Charles, and then we're done for a couple of weeks. And even at that, they changed the rules of the game. There's no checking. You're wearing masks on ice. They changed the way you do face-offs, right? Meetings. Hello? Look at what we're doing here. We're not in person this year. We're meeting online, right? Zooming became a verb, okay? And we're all working remotely, right? Beyond that, let's not even talk about hospitality and what's going on in that world. And travel, I mean, this is the longest I've gone probably in 30 some odd years without getting on a plane, right? Everything in transportation has been disrupted, from flights to car rentals to commuting to ride sharing. Public transportation is disrupted, right? It's all that way. Even today, I put on a button-down shirt and I put on dress shoes, which I don't know why. No one could see it. I could have done this barefoot for all you would know. But I haven't been to my dry cleaner in 9 months, right? So we're going to come out of this. I don't know if it's going to be in April. I don't know if it's going to be in July. I'm not going to be Dr. Anthony Fauci or Dr. Ashish Jha and come here and try to come up with some prediction of when we come out of it. But I can promise you, this will be over. And what will the business environment look like when that's done? Some people have argued that COVID has only accelerated things that were already in motion. right? The move to Netflix, the move to Amazon. Grocery delivery, Peapod at Stop and Shop existed before COVID. We just got new people to be comfortable with it. I think there's a lot more at play here, though. I really do think that if that's what we're thinking, we're missing a much bigger subject, okay? All our norms have been tested, right? How we dine, how we shop, how we work, how we play, even how we get healthcare. The disruption has happened. One of the hardest things to do in innovation is to disrupt. And guess what? The startup didn't have to do the disruption. We got a virus to disrupt for us, and it disrupted everything. Everything, right? I actually think to some extent, some footprint of socially distanced habits will likely remain and maybe be a catalyst for even further disruption and innovation, right? Our decisioning processes have changed. I used to say I could not work at home. And now I find out I get over an hour back in my day every day by not commuting, right? You know, I'm now focused on getting more free time to be socially close to the people I want to be close to, and I'm actually going to be socially distancing a little more from people who are not relevant relations. That store clerk, I don't need to see the store clerk, right? I saw a McKinsey & Company report, and I'm not a big analyst report kind of guy. I'm the type of guy who probably spends more time saying bad stuff about analysts than good stuff, just my crabby nature. But I'm going to go out there and say, and whoever's typing, if you could put yourself on mute, please. Thanks. This report discussed life post-COVID, and they called the upcoming era the Great Reset. And I thought that was amazing. The Great Reset. That's really what has happened here. And as I think about this, this could be one of the most transformational moments. Set aside the Industrial Revolution and the advent of the internet, this could be number 3 right now, okay? In the Great Reset, the question is, when we come out of this, what will be changed forever? And what will go back to normal? And what will come back differently, right? You know, we can all agree, these remote meetings, they're gonna be here to stay, right? Zoom's not going away. Some employers now, because of this, might be more so willing to hire people outside of their geography. I mean, could it be possible that time zone and language might be more important than physical location in the future hiring world? That could just be an affectation of this that goes on. But you know, what we do know is so much of the office experience will never be the same, right? This Great Reset is so abundant in change. It's a cornucopia for startups, right? All industries are transforming, and it's out there for you to go figure out how to take advantage of it. If you have a startup right now, the disruption was done for you. So this is your time perhaps to get traction. If you're looking at making a startup, what are the new opportunities that the disruption has made available? I think they're out there and they're ripe for the picking. Let's just hypothesize for just a second, right? Let's go back to restaurants. I'm sure there's some restaurateur who sees a prime location right down here that was vacated due to COVID, right? And it's quite possible that that restaurateur is thinking, I got to sign a lease now. I can start doing a build out in January, February, so I can be open in April, so I'm ready when we come out of this. And that's something that could be happening, and that might be a great thing. At the same time, are office workers going to be coming back to the offices? Is that prime location maybe going to be shifting to a dinner location rather than a lunch location if people aren't coming back to the office? If it's fine dining and business lunches, are people going to dress like this anymore? But so many of us are living in sweats and not putting on makeup, and that's part of the new norm that will come out of this. I'm not putting on makeup. You get my idea, okay? So that's seizing the opportunity on a, think larger than that. At the very same time that restaurateur is thinking they're grabbing an opportunity, all the delivery service things have become more normal. People who never had food delivery from Uber Eats or Grubhub or pick your favorite, it doesn't make a difference. That's become more normal. So is that going to impact that small person, right? And then take it way off to the edge. As we go through this, sorry, too much talking today. As we go through all of this, right? It's lurking somewhere out there. There's an entrepreneur in the dark thinking up some new way of transforming the entire dining experience, both in restaurant and in home, based upon some of the changes that have just happened over this past 9 months. And maybe they're about to disrupt all those other people. So this is the time. Disruption has happened. All of this has happened. What I just theorized with restaurants, I think we're going to see these things playing out over and over again across all industries. And I think we're not going to be looking back at this as what was the economic impact of 2020 and the lost revenue. I think we will look back at what happens in 2021 and 2022 as these big forces of change and innovation and new economic value being driven, right? And a real big question, with so many businesses closed, does that make a chance for you to go grab market share when the economy restarts? Because so much of your competition isn't there anymore, right? Things to be thinking about when you plan how aggressive to come out of this. And then, I thought I had this whole thing done, and I was talking to Thor earlier, and he was like, well, did you think about international? I'm like, what do you mean about international? He's like, well, do you realize that different countries will come out of this at different times, and that's going to create international advantages for certain countries? And, it's a huge topic. So what can your business do to not just reopen or just launch, right? I think human behavior to some extent has forever been changed. We don't go back all the way. There's a footprint of this that changes the way we act, right? That doesn't get erased. Okay, we have reset, as McKinsey put it. And as we return to normal, we can use this disruption to redirect people from the old way of doing things into new habits. They don't have to fall back into the old. So I think you can look at these opportunities in 4 broad buckets of what's out there for business, okay? 1, and this is the easy one, rapid revenue, right? People are gonna go back out. The unemployment rate's gonna fall, the economy's gonna go up, people are gonna be shopping out there. So there's a land grab for market share. And with less of your competitors out there, if a lot of them have gone out of business or they've been wounded so badly, they can't afford to ramp up. If you're lucky enough to be in that position, grab market share. That's one thought of mine. Second thought, operational reinvention, right? The way you run your business will never be the same. The office, if you still have one, will be less attended, or it might be some form of flexible space or sharing, right? Your overhead may decrease or shift to cloud services. You may do everything from paying bills to company lunches completely differently. Operational reinvention. I was even talking with a company that was looking at doing far less branch offices, permanent closing branch offices, letting people work at home, and taking the savings from that to spend more time getting their people out to visit customers and more time getting field employees at headquarters to get imbued in the corporate culture, okay? Operational reinvention. 3, product disruption. It's close to my heart. With all of us having a reset, what our normal behaviors were not necessarily going to be where they are in the future, right? We can direct people to that new norm, right? We're going to be capitalizing on service and convenience, right? That's been a bit of the theme. You don't have to go out anymore because we're all social distancing. So services and products come to you. And I think that's been a big disruption. And you can capitalize on what you can do to bring stuff to people, to be convenient to them, to give them time in their life or make them not have to go get things. I know people are more comfortable with online grocery buying, right? And some will not go back to supermarkets. Hey, I have grown to love telehealth medical visits. You know why? I used to go to the doctor and I'd sit for 25 minutes in the waiting room. Doctors are not late for telehealth visits. It's great. I don't have to drive there. I don't have to wait in the waiting room. This has been great. I hope those stick around, right? And maybe, just maybe, local doctors get disrupted by some large telehealth medical organization that's going to form. Who knows, right? But I want more of that. And I don't think we're going to fall completely back into old habits. Lastly, being less local, right? Everything from buying and using services without retail footprint becomes less local. It becomes more digital, not physical. And, I think hiring will become less local. I think we become really, many of us were comfortable with work at home. I think now a majority of business is comfortable with work at home. So hiring the right person in the right place, not the person who can drive to the office, is the way some people look at hiring across the country. So anyway, as I said, I don't have a degree in behavioral sciences. I don't have all the answers. I think these are things that could happen, but I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy who lives here in the Ocean State, and these are my thoughts, and you may have different ones. I'll tell you this, I'm fine working at home. I don't want my commute back. I don't need to be in the office all the time. My company, I hold online lunches every Friday, and we meet as a team, and we're not allowed to talk work during the lunch hour. And that's how we keep connected. Maybe for me personally, the Great Reset will be adopting a new way of doing things. And it's going to really, in the bottom line, mean I spend more time with my wife and my kids, because I'm spending less time doing other things that didn't need to be done, or spending time in the presence of people I didn't want to be in the presence with. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. The people at CVS are nice. I don't have to show up and see them face to face. This is real disruption. And there's value to build innovation around this. So, I'll leave you with that. One of the hardest things to do is to change human behavior. And COVID has done that on a massive global scale. How are you going to take advantage of this?